Welcome back. So I know it's relatively late because I've just got back from the Jersey Unveil Party that the Quakes did down in San Jose, which, by the way, I had a lot of fun going to that party. I mean, even though I know the jersey that they unveil definitely let me down big time, which is kind of the story of being a Quakes fan. I did have a good time meeting some of those Quakes player that was down at the party. So guys like K Cal, Jackson Yu, Christian Espinoza, Chofis, was all down there at the party. But there were a couple of players that also got to the unveil party that I was not expected to be there. So guys like Francisco Calvo, and then also the recently new signing that the Quakes just made a couple of days ago in Jamiro Montero. He was also down there for the party. And there was also kind of at one point where during when they're about to unveil the new jersey that the Quakes will be wearing for their away game, I think both Montero and Chofis was kind of like standing right next to each other, and that kind of was a little bit interesting and kind of a little bit awkward too, because I'm pretty sure Chofis knows that he is probably going to be out of here in 6 month time to go back to Chivas, knowing the fact that the guy standing next to him in Jamiro Montero most likely is going to replace him in the spot that he is playing. And by the way, Jimmy Conrad was hosting the event, and I thought he was a good host. Now, one thing that I was kind of maybe a little bit disappointed besides the jersey that the Quakes of course unveil, which I'll talk a little bit more about it when we do the video where we look at every single team in the new jersey that they're going to be wearing for this upcoming season. But one thing that I was kind of disappointed is the fact that Wando was not there. And I know Wando wasn't actually scheduled to go to that party, but I just kind of feel like maybe the Quakes are just kind of surprised the fans that to attend that event, and that somehow out of nowhere Wando would just showed up. And I'm pretty sure that place that the unveil party was happening, that roof might have been blown off if Wando actually showed up. I mean, that would have been such an amazing surprise to see, but unfortunately it was not meant to be, and he didn't really show up. But maybe in future games, maybe he'll kind of surprisingly show up at a Quakes game, and he's going to get a huge recognition if he decide to do that. But that being said, enough of me talking about the Quakes unveil party and talk about what this video is all about. And that, of course, is do a season preview for Sporting KC. And by the way, this is the final season preview that we are going to do for this season, as this is now officially the 28th team that I've talked about, and I'm pretty sure I have every team in my season preview playlist. If not, I'll probably go back to see which team I forgot to put in that season preview playlist. But if you want to, of course, watch the season preview playlist either now or maybe later in the season to see how wrong I was in terms of talk about some optimism and concern, go ahead. I'll probably I'll most likely just leave a link in the description for every of those season preview that I've done in terms of the season preview playlist, because I don't think I've did that for any other season preview that I've done so far. Now, for Sporting KC, last season they finished with a 17-7-10 record, and by the way, I forgot to put the total points that they had, which I believe it was, let's see, 17 times 3, that is that's 51, so 61 points they got last season. They scored 58 goals last season while conceding 40 goals with a plus 18 goal differential, and they finished third in the Western Conference, which is considered a disappointment for them because they were actually in pole position to finish first in the Western Conference. And then Peter Vermes decided to do his classic thing, which is decide not to make some subs and run his team to the ground when this team was playing probably the busiest fixture part of the schedule in the latter part of the season, and hence the injury of course happened, and then they did not end the season in a relatively good form and ends up finishing third in the Western Conference. But besides that, in the last 5 seasons, last season, as I mentioned, they finished third place, but in 2020, they did finish first in the Western Conference, and then in 2019, I'm pretty sure SKC fans would love to forget that season because that was a disastrous season where they finished 11th in the West. But before that, they finished first in 2018, and then in 2017, they finished 5th in the Western Conference. By the way, when they finished first in 2018, that was still the closest that they got back to MLS Cup, because that was the time when they were able to get to the Western Conference final before losing to the Portland Timbers. And it's quite hard to believe that this Sporting KC team that has regularly been in the playoffs they somehow only have made one conference final ever since they won MLS Cup back in 2013. I mean, yeah, that's kind of frustrating if you're a Sporting KC fan. It feels like maybe playoff heartbreak has started to be kind of a regular thing for this team. Now, in terms of some of the transfer that they made this offseason, so besides the fact that they actually just recently found their placeholder in terms of the striker position to replace Alan Pulido, who's going to be out for the rest of the season. They also brought in Robert Veluter from NK Maribor, Mariano Zeninis from Almen Nicholson, Logan Ndembe from Guingamp, and Ben Sweat from Austin FC, or Russell returning to the team for, I believe, his second stint with Sporting KC from Orlando City. They also got Courtney Ford off of free agency from the Colorado Rapids. And then in terms of the draft pick, the only guy that they draft and signed a contract was Brett St. Martin. And then, as I mentioned, recently they finally found a number 9 that at least is going to be a placeholder in terms of the injured Alan Pulido in Nikola Vucinovic from Vostovic in Serbia. Now, in terms of players that they lost this offseason, they didn't really lose a lot of big names, although there was a lot of players that is actually now free agent for this team that they, of course, cut at the end of the season roster. One of the bigger names that they lost is Jalen Lindsay, who's going to be going to Charlotte FC in this upcoming season. They also lost longtime midfielder Ilya Sanchez to LAFC. They lost Roberto Puncic going to Bulgaria to join Club Bolter Plovdiv. And then they, of course, lost Amadou Dia to Louisville City, although I'm pretty sure SKC fans are relieved that they lost Amadou Dia, consider of how bad he was last season. They also lost Wilson Harris, also going to Louisville City. And then the list of guys that is still currently a free agent in the free agency market in MLS includes Luis Martins, Grant Smith, Grayson Barber, Tyler Freeman, Brooks Thompson, and then Issa Easley. All these guys that was cut at the end of the season roster last year and are still currently a free agent. Now, in terms of optimism for the Sporting KC team, I mean, when you look at this squad, it is still an elite MLS squad that should be compete for the top 3 spot in the Western Conference. I mean, I know, again, they lost a big piece in the strike, in the attack in Alan Pulido, but when you look at everywhere else, it's pretty stacked, and that includes that defense where, you know, I feel like this defense definitely got some reinforcement and seems to be much better and got a bit of an upgrade. Like some of the pieces that they lost this off season in the back line was kind of regular starters. I mean, one guy that for sure that was a regular starter last year in the defense is Roberto Puncic, and depending on how you ask Sporting KC fans about the opinions of Roberto Puncic, they either said that he's either an okay player or the fact that he's not really good, and he's also could be very inconsistent. And again, you know, some of these guys that they signed in Robert Veluta and Mariano Zeninis, these guys are basically supposed to be the defensive reinforcement that the Sporting KC team needed. Because don't let the fact that, you know, they gave up 40 goals last season is just shows that they actually fixed up their defense compared to the previous season. Their defense was still bad, and the only reason why they didn't give up more goals last season was because Tim Melia still looked like an elite goalkeeper and have at times bailed out that defense, which I think that's also the other optimism for this Sporting KC team, where at least they still have Tim Melia, and even though he is now another year older and getting close to his, I think he's now already in his mid-30s, he still looked like a top tier goalkeeper and one of the top 5 goalkeeper in this league. But in terms of concern for the Sporting KC team, it's got to be the striker position. And again, I know they have recently signed a striker, but you know, we still don't know a lot about this guy called Nikola Vucinovic. I mean, we know that he of course did score goals in the Serbian league, but let's be honest, is the Serbian league actually a league that you should take as a great or as a credible league that could be right up there in terms of the MLS talent? And not to mention the fact that, you know, the team that he was joining wasn't any well-known kind of Serbian team like Red Star Belgrade or even Partizan. So yeah, I think there is a lot of question about whether or not if he is going to at least be produce half of the goals that Alan Pulido would have produced because like I said in yesterday's News of the Week episode, or actually not yesterday, but on Wednesday when I did the News of the Week episode, I don't expect this guy to be the complete replacement for Polito. But if he can at least show half of that, then yeah, I think that is decent enough. But again, it just feels like this is going to be a team that's going to once again heavily rely on Johnny Russell and also Danny O'Shaughnessy. The other concern for this team, and this is kind of a little bit nitpicky, but will the reinforced backline be an upgrade to last season? And again, from what I heard, it seemed like it's going to be the case because this new group that they have in the backline seems to be much stronger compared to the last two seasons. But again, as the old saying goes, word is only going to take too much until you actually see it in action, and that if it turns out this back line that they have, which is kind of relatively new with some of the signing that they made this offseason, is not going to improve, then yeah, it's doesn't feel like they really upgrade their back line. That it seems like that's one of the key flaws for this team coming in to this season besides the number 9 position. And then lastly, the concern with Sporting KC fans, and this has been a concern for the past couple of years, and probably ever since Peter Vermes had took over this team, is the fact that can he stop running the team to the ground by not making subs. Now, the good news for Peter Vermes this season is that at least from what we've seen with the schedule this year, it's a little but more space out, and it's not as compacted as what we saw last season. But that being said, it doesn't make a point that Peter Vermes should just stop using his subs. I mean, it's not like his bench that he has is not good enough. I mean, when you look at the bench that this Sporting KC had and the depth that they have some good depth pieces in terms of their roster. So why in the world is Peter Vermes decided to not use that? And sometimes when he does use it, he waits so long until he actually makes some sub. And again, I know I've always used Peter Vermes and in some cases Adrian Heath as a prime example of head coaches that refuse to use subs and they come back to bite them big time. But I feel like Peter Vermes have been doing that for a longer time, probably longer than what Adrian Heath has done with Minnesota, and that has to frustrate Sporting KC fans, and especially last season too, where I mean I gotta say that a big part of this team of why they didn't finish first was the fact that he basically run the team to the ground, and that those injuries that they had heading into decision day against RSL probably wouldn't happen if Peter Vermes actually decided to make some sub and utilize his bench and actually rotate his team. Now, in terms of MVP for this team, I mean, it's going to be between Johnny Russell and Danny O'Shaughnessy, but I'm going to go with Johnny Russell because I do trust him to be the guy that performed better than what Danny O'Shaughnessy is. And I'm not saying Danny O'Shaughnessy is going to be bad or anything, but one thing I do worry about Danny O'Shaughnessy is that didn't he have that breakout season back in 2018 where he scored double-digit goal, and then in the very next year he become the most cursed number 9, or in the case one of the most cursed attacking player in the league, where we're not allowed to score goals. And last season again, not only it was another breakout year for Danny O'Shaughnessy, but it was a career year for him. I mean, scoring the most goal ever in his career. But there is that question of whether or not if that's going to sustain heading into next season. And there's already maybe signs that might not be the case, because last year, I know he kind of got off to a really hot start for the first half of the season and continue into the early part of the second half of the season, but he really faded away as the season goes along, and that's is where it gets kind of concerning, where it started to go back to what we saw back in 2019, where he really faded away and being a guy that just are not allowed to score goals. So in this case, I got to go with Johnny Russo, and that, I know he has started to approach his 30s, and usually when you're an attacker approaching 30, you are going to slow down a little bit, but I still think he is going to be lethal, and that he's easily one of the top winger in the league, and a guy that will once again carry this attack for Sporting KC. Now, in terms of comeback player, I can't really think of it. I mean, originally I was going to go with Polito or maybe Jalen Lindsay, because Lindsay was a guy that spent a lot of time in the IR, and I know for a fact that he has some talent. but he's going to be going to Charlotte FC. And as I mentioned, Alan Pulido out for the rest of the season after undergoing knee surgery this off season. So there's really no player I can think of maybe as a comeback player. I mean, maybe Kyrie Shelton, I would say, though. I still don't expect Kyrie Shelton is a guy that is going to be a goal scorer. I mean, I think he is a good number 9 in terms of being a hold up player, and also at times he could be a very good option off the bench and could be a good utility striker. But is he the guy that is going to score the goals for this team? No, probably not. And that's, when he's basically leading up the line, that's what he's kind of asked for, even though that's not part of his game. So yeah, I can't really think of any comeback player besides Kyrie Shelton. But let me know in the comments if you're a Sporting KC fan. What do you think is a comeback player? And this maybe is also should be something I should have said when I actually put non-associates in terms of the season preview, because there's been a couple of teams where I just simply cannot think of a player that could have a comeback season. Now, in terms of expectation for this team, MLS Cup contender. I mean, it feels like this is a team that I know, losing Pulido is going to be a challenge, and that it puts a little bit of a dent in terms of them winning MLS Cup. But when you look at this team and how talented it is elsewhere, they need to figure out a way to reach the promised land again. I mean, especially after what happened last season, where last season you got to say that was a huge missed opportunity to reach MLS Cup, because pretty much when Seattle was knocked out of the competition, I thought Sporting KC was the team to beat, and they still had the strongest team out of any other team that was left in the playoffs. And the fact that they weren't able to capitalize on an opportunity to not only make it back to the conference final, but actually reach MLS Cup for the first time since 2013, a huge disappointment for this team. And they're looking to kind of also end their playoff curse a little bit too, because like I said, this has been a team that it is shocking the fact that they've been into the playoffs a lot and been a regular playoff team. I mean, the only year they didn't make it was 2019, going back to when they win MLS Cup in 2013, where they made it to the playoff every single season, and they've only made it to one conference final. So yeah, let's see if that playoff curse that seems to always beat this team is going to come to an end for this upcoming season. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video? And if you're a Sporting KC fan, what's your optimism, your concern, and your expectation heading for this upcoming season? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and as I said, I will leave a link in the description in terms of the season preview playlist, and I will of course do that for pretty much every season preview I've done this season. As I've said that it's a good chance for you to either look back at that season preview maybe at the end of the season and tell how wrong I was in terms of some of the things I was optimistic or concerned about a certain team for this upcoming season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.